Hello and welcome to episode 484 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Evan Silva. We are coming off of an injury-riddled Week 10, not in terms of quantity of injuries, but some really big names suffered serious injuries in Week 10. Hate to see it. Evan, how's it going?
It's going all right. I wanted to ask you a sort of philosophical question because you remember last week, people, myself included, were complaining that couldn't put together a lineup that you liked. No one liked their lineups. I wound up doing pretty well in DFS and on Showdown. You know, what should be our approach in weeks where we don't love our lineups? Should we view that as an opportunity? I played less. My initial reaction was, I'm going to play less this week. But now I wish I would have played more. You know what I mean? What's your general feeling on that?
I think we have a bigger edge in the weeks where it's harder because, in other words, you have to scrape for crappier guys. In other words, like Treylon Burks at 3K, Christian Watson at 3,700, Tanner Hudson at 2,600. The common people not listening to this, I think, aren't as in tune with changing roles on those guys. So, in other words, making an all-star team, a lot of people can do that, right? Like a lot of people know who Jonathan Taylor is and Nyheim Hines is out or whatever. I think the deeper we have to go, the better it is for us, but it's less fun for sure. Like, I don't want to have to pray that Tanner Hudson or, Greg Dulcich gets 6 points, that's not that fun. And so I think there's some like push and pull there, but yeah, glad to hear you did well. I did well in cash and had one good tournament team. So yeah, I don't know, man.
You've had a winning week in cash every single week this year?
I'm actually Jesus himself. If you didn't know, Evan, I am running like Jesus himself. Anyways,
unbelievable.
On today's show, we are going to go team by team through each NFC squad, talking through the injuries, everything we saw, and what it means going forward. Before we get into it here, wanted to remind everyone about The Solver, brand new company we started. To be clear, it's not related to ETR outside of the fact that we're partnered with them, and many of us at ETR founded it. It is a fantasy tools company. Our first two products are a DFS optimizer and a bankroll tracker for DFS. If you are an ETR subscriber, an active ETR subscriber, you can purchase the Solver using the same email address. Our projections will sync into the Solver. For more details, go to the subscribe tab on the site. There is a landing page there for the Solver. By the way, we made sure that Stone Cold Boomers, such as Evan and I, can even use the Solver. It is not above our head from a tech perspective. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have flattened out the payouts in the Battle Royale. Battle Royale is a really cool format. Snake draft, 1 week snake draft with a lot of action. We do have rankings for that every Wednesday night. Herzig's also doing live streams, talking through some strategy for the Battle Royales, all about position scarcity, all about the end of your draft, getting some unique guys in there. If you use promo code ETR when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Again, promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. So I was looking at what the Cardinals did. I was like, my God, what are they doing? I mean, James Conner, long injury history. James Conner been hurt this year. Benjamin had played well. James Conner, 65 snaps in this game against the Rams. Keontae Ingram, 5. Benjamin, just 1. 24 hours later, we find out that Benjamin has been cut with no explanation whatsoever. I assume he did something, team rules. Who knows what Benjamin did? But James Conner, I mean, they're going for it with James Conner now. I don't know how long he can sustain this, but pass game role, goal line role is pretty good. My only concern is that the offense as a whole, I think, has a really low floor. But man, this role for James Conner is awesome right now. And then we also need to talk about the Zach Ertz injury. Evan, what did you see out of the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, Colt McCoy can, engineer an offense. I mean, to the extent that he can get the ball to, Rondale Moore, we talked about him entering the game. Like, the game really set up well for Rondale Moore because of all their protection issues. Colt McCoy will hang in there. He gets rid of the ball quickly, and they move the offense pretty well against the Rams. Not a ton of big plays or anything like that, but they were able to matriculate the ball down the field. In the passing game, Rondale Moore has just been really good in the slot. I mean, I think he's gained a lot of momentum. He's playing a ton. And then, as we mentioned on Sunday morning, although it was, concerning theoretically downgrading from Kyler Murray to Colt McCoy is good enough to get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure what Kyler Murray's status is going to be going forward. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He's a dual threat quarterback who relies on his legs. So we'll just have to monitor that. But, reassurance if we have to get another game of Colt McCoy, like he can get the ball to these dudes.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What are your thoughts on James Conner going forward?
I think that this was a career high for him, and certainly a high in Arizona in terms of his playing time participation. I don't trust him to stay healthy, but he's healthy now, and I think you just ride him. I think that Keontae Ingram also is a sort of interesting stash.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the motherfucking Mackey Award winner, though. About to take over as the Cardinals' full-time tight end in the absence of Zach Ertz, who it sounds like he's done for the year.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on James Conner, next matchups are tough. I mean, we're talking San Francisco, Chargers, Patriots, Broncos are the next 4 games here for the Arizona Cardinals. Could be a sell high spot for James Conner, but we'll talk about that more on the rest of season 150 show. But yes, we buried the lead, as Evan alluded to. We never like to celebrate injuries. Feel bad for Zach Ertz. Thought he was playing fine in that role as the veteran. However, the 2021 Mackey Award winner, Trey McBride, ended up having a huge role after Zach Ertz went down. He only saw 1 target from Colt McCoy, but he ran a route on almost every Colt McCoy drop back. What's your outlook for Trey McBride going forward? How aggressive should people be on waivers to get Trey McBride?
Yeah. He's still a rookie tight end, but man, he checks a lot of boxes. I mean, I think we can, in dark pencil him in for a ton of snaps going forward. The targets may be a little bit up and down. We've seen that with Greg Dulcich, another rookie tight end. Harrison Bryant isn't a rookie, but he's been, kind of back and forth. But I mean, this is a guy who caught 90 passes last year at Colorado State, just insane production for a college tight end. And I think it seemed like, you remember, he was a healthy and active to begin the season. He has earned the trust of the coaching staff as the season has progressed. They're willing to be pretty aggressive in the passing game in Arizona. He's going to run a lot of those routes that if they have to stick with the horizontal raid, like he's going to be in that area. So, I mean, tight end premium leagues, like I think he's like a mid-range tight end 2 right now with tight end 1 upside.
Yeah, I'm excited about Trey McBride, man. I mean, he played 62 out of 68 snaps in this game after Ertz went down, 32 routes on 40 Colt McCoy dropbacks. Of those snaps, 21 were slot, 7 were wide. And it's concerning he only saw 1 target, but man, the Zach Ertz role is a good role to have. If Trey McBride's actually good, I mean, he'll do more than what Zach Ertz did with that role. I'm not sure that Trey McBride can get open and be as savvy as Zach Ertz was in that role, but I'm excited about Trey McBride, man. I'd be pretty aggressive with him on waivers.
A lot of things to talk about with Arizona. Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
When do we think he's coming back? Is it? I believe it was like week 13 was his initial timeline.
I heard some positive stuff on Marquise Brown. I think, sometime the next 1, 2, 3 weeks is really likely for Marquise Brown. Okay. So yeah. All right. Falcons. So that was the Thursday game. The Falcons played the Panthers, and Cordell Patterson, maybe it was because of a short week, but Cordell Patterson only 5 out of 22 running back carries. But this is what we talked about on the show last week. We actually put a clip out on Twitter talking about Cordero as a sell high, and people gave us a lot of crap for it. I mean, the thesis of selling high on Cordero was he had 2 touchdowns in week 9. That's unsustainable when you play for the Falcons and when you're in a 3-man committee with Algier and Caleb Huntley. So feel pretty good about that. Any thoughts on the Falcons from that Thursday game against the Panthers?
Yeah, and they also give snaps, situational snaps to Avery Williams. So it was a really good call that Cordell Patterson was a sell high, and I don't really see any indication that he's going to just run away with the backfield at this point. No Falcon player against the Panthers had more than 8 carries in the game. Marcus Mariota is going to contribute in the running game. I'd much rather have Cordell Patterson in best ball right now than having to make weekly lineup decisions regarding him in season long.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, it was a short week, so maybe on a long week now we see more CPAT in week 11. I don't think that's totally out of the realm, but yeah, they're still going to play the other guys for sure. Another situation from that game as we move to Carolina here, I thought that maybe Foreman had earned it, right? Like before Chuba Hubbard got hurt, it was kind of a timeshare. But Foreman played so well while Chuba was out and they were actually competitive in winning games, maybe Foreman earned it, and that's what happened. Foreman got 31 carries in that game against the Falcons. Chuba Hubbard only played 12 snaps. I think that's the kind of split we'll see for the most part going forward. Foreman's just been too good. The other thing going on with Carolina now is they're going back to Baker. PJ Walker suffered a high ankle sprain in that game against the Falcons. I'm a little surprised that they're not giving Sam Darnold a chance here. Sam Darnold's healthy. He's going to be the backup to Baker in week 11. I mean, God, Baker was so bad. I mean, probably the worst quarterback in the league. And now they go back to him rather than giving Darnold a shot. I don't love that, or I don't even like it for DJ Moore at all. Obviously, I'm still holding a big DJ Moore bag here in season long and best ball. So I'm a little bit frustrated by it. What do you think of Baker starting? Anything else on the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thoughts are similar to yours. I also could see Baker and Darnold both playing in their next game. I mean, I don't think that Baker is going to be on any kind of a long leash or anything like that. So my guess is still that we see Sam Darnold before the end of the season. Deontay Foreman, they're building their offense around him at this point. Laviska Shenault, who made a big play, I had him in the captain in Showdown, had a nice Thursday night. They're involving him more now, and they're going to give him gadget play opportunities. The DJ Moore stuff is just, I think it's going to continue to be really up and down. Terrace Marshall only had one catch in this game. He's going to also be really up and down. But, remains the clear-cut number 2 receiver for Carolina.
Chicago. I'm not sure if you're aware, Evan. Justin Fields has actually turned into God. I know I mentioned Jesus before, but Fields is actually God. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, they've changed his role. There's no doubt about that. He only had 4 designed runs from weeks 4 to 6 in those 3 games. In the 4 games since then, he's had 34 designed runs. He's made some outrageous plays, escaping from the pocket, lowering his shoulder, breaking off 60-yard runs. He's now on pace for 176 carries, 1,273 rushing yards, and 10 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's like the 4th most expensive quarterback on DraftKings now, and deservedly so, I would say. Has another soft matchup coming up this week. I believe the Bears are at Atlanta. How long is this sustainable, Evan, and any other thoughts on the Chicago Bears?
He had 10 design runs in this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's their offense right now. And then when they get into the red zone, I know Cole Kmet had the longer TD on like a tight end leak play. But when they get into the red zone, like they are actively trying to get the ball to Cole Kmet in scoring position. With Justin Fields, like, I mean, that 67-yard run was just incredible. Oh my goodness. The speed that he showed is like his open field running ability. I mean, he looked like a legit running back. And and this is not, one of these people call Lamar Jackson a running back, which is just a ton of bullshit. But Justin Fields can throw the ball. It's just right now their offense is not talented enough in the pass catcher core for that to be the focal point of their offense. So I think they're just going to continue to ride this. There's no way that he can really maintain this efficiency, I don't think. But I mean, at this point, I know we joked about it on Sunday with Danny Dimes, the 100-yard Jones. But like Justin Fields is like, I mean, how would you project him? I would project him for like 75 rushing yards, like legit.
We had him for 68 rushing yards last week as the projection. I don't know how much higher we can go than that. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Maybe we can get to 75, but I mean, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's hard. You mentioned the weapons. I was surprised they didn't use Chase Claypool more. Chase Claypool only 19 out of 61 snaps, only 7 routes. Chase Claypool actually played less in his second game with the Bears than he did in the first game, which was weird. And so now at this point, before I use Chase Claypool, I'm gonna have to see it first. I can't buy reports or quotes. Like I have to see it first. So
no, you can't even play him in season long right now. And I mean, kind of weird stuff enigmatic things have been happening with Chase Claypool for years at this point.
Yeah. Dallas. So we talked on Sunday morning, and I thought one of our better Sunday morning shows and one of our better Sunday morning takes, we talked about the Skip Pete quotes when it came to Tony Pollard. And Skip Pete had talked, and you can listen to Solo Pod. I just did like 10 minutes on this on the Solo Pod. But anyway, Skip Pete had some quotes saying, Tony Pollard taps out at 30 snaps. He doesn't have enough gas left. And Evan and I both said, that's really thin. We don't think that's actually going to be the case. And when it turned out, I didn't feel great about it, but I felt pretty good about it. Next thing you know, Tony Pollard plays 72 out of 83 snaps, handles 22 of 27 running back carries, 6 targets for a 13% share. It's now clear and obvious to everyone that anytime Zeke misses, which I kind of think he'll be back this week, but anytime Zeke misses, it's the Tony Pollard show in close games for sure. I also thought it was interesting in the past game. Dalton Schultz, I thought looked good, man. 63 snaps for Dalton Schultz, and he struggled with that knee issue for a while. Thought he looked good there when he's below 4K on DraftKings. I think he's really interesting to me. And then CD ceiling game. I didn't know if he had it in him anymore, but really it was just a fluke. And Evan called it, said that, CD had not had a 20-point DraftKings game in like a year plus. And it was just kind of fluky. Just too talented and he's usually just too good for it to not happen. He went absolutely nuke here in this game against the Packers. What'd you see out of the Cowboys?
Tony Pollard, he's like a long run threat. But in this particular game, his longest run was 14, and he still came out with 22 for 115, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. I mean, that's the sign, I think, of a running back that absolutely can handle volume. And I mean, he proved it here in this game. I mean, and the dude is a big time playmaker. He didn't even have a very good game in the passing game, which we know that he's capable of doing that. CD came with it. Dalton Schultz and Dak Prescott have like a clear rapport. And Dalton Schultz right now is the number 2 pass catcher in Dallas behind CD Lamb. He's an every week fantasy starter. And I had him in a lineup and then I pulled him out just like, the PCL, just keeps going through my head, but wish I would have kept him in there. And anybody that did benefit from that, and you should keep him in and we're keeping him in our lineups going forward. He's an every week fantasy starter, mid-range tight end 1.
For sure. Lions. The DeAndre Swift thing just continues to confound me. I thought he looked really healthy, catches a swing pass, makes some guys miss, wants to get into the game, asking to games. It's just not happening. They just don't think he's healthy, or they don't like him, or I don't know what. 19 out of 62 snaps in this game for DeAndre Swift 1 week after playing just 10 snaps. Justin Jackson played 17 snaps to DeAndre Swift's 19. DeAndre Swift only ran 9 routes on 30 Jared Goff dropbacks. I mean, that is absolutely criminal. I think that Dan Campbell thinks that the other guys are better, or DeAndre Swift is hurt or whatever. This excuse that they don't want him to get hurt is so stupid. Like, you got to play the guy. If you're only going to play him 10 snaps, just what's the point? You got to play him. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. So I don't know, man. I'm massively tilting the Swift situation. Any thoughts there? Anything else for you on the Lions?
This is the second straight game where Jamal Williams has been like the clear-cut feature back, and then Justin Jackson and DeAndre Swift are rotating number 2s. That's rough. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, look, DeAndre Swift, we took him in the second and third rounds. The offense is explosive. We believe in his talent. Is he even he's not a trustworthy flex play right now. I mean, it's rough, man. It's rough.
Yeah. And I think when he's been out there, I think he's played well. He's made a difference for the team. Like for the Lions, he's made a difference for the team and them playing better and winning games lately. It's just, really tilting. Oh, and by the way, Amon-Ra, 42% target share in this game. I mean, he was just a machine at earning targets, period. Any spot, any situation. So good.
Yeah. Whenever he's healthy, he should have a double-digit target projection every game.
Oh, yeah. Packers. So we saw the Christian Watson breakout game, and it came when Romeo Doubs was out. And by the way, Doubs has a high ankle sprain. I expect him to be out a couple more weeks. And Randall Cobb were both out. The big thing that Christian Watson did in this game was separate from Sammy Watkins. And this is kind of what we speculated about on Sunday morning. We couldn't really project it, but Sammy Watkins has been so bad, and Christian Watson is so explosive. Like, I get to get that drop. Rodgers probably hated him or whatever. He's been on the injury report. There was a lot of negatives on Christian Watson, but Sammy Watkins just can't do it, period. And so Christian Watson gets 21 routes on 23 Aaron Rodgers dropbacks. Sammy Watkins only had 8 in this game. So people want to know how much to spend on Christian Watson in the waiver market. I think it's a somewhat priority ad. I think he'll be up and down for sure as kind of a raw rookie, but it certainly looks good right now. Evan, what do you think about Christian Watson going forward? Anything else on the Packers?
So I would be really aggressive on him in fab or waivers or whatever. I mean, I would want to get him on my team just because I think at this stage of the season, and Dwayne McFarland was talking about this today on Twitter, that don't think about the downsides of guys, especially at this time of year. Just think about their upsides, and Christian Watson has the upside to be Aaron Rodgers' number one receiver the rest of the way. At least in terms of big play capability. Allen Lazard is going to maintain a big role and everything, but Christian Watson could absolutely lead the team in receiving yards the rest of the way. He's the 34th pick in the draft. I want to say his player profile, we had Mike Renner on before the season, and he compared Christian Watson to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And I think that that's a very fair comparison. But I also think that Christian Watson has the potential to be better than that. Mm-hmm. And he's got a ton of opportunity right now. So I would be super aggressive trying to get him. And I say this even as someone who's been like a doubter of Christian Watson to this point.
Okay. Rams got some bad news. Rams season is off the rails, man. I mean, completely off the rails. High ankle sprain for Cooper Kupp, which requires surgery. And so maybe he can get back this year, but they're so bad. And I don't think they're going to be able to win without Cooper Kupp. Like, what's the point? Like, say Cooper Kupp gets cleared for week 16 or something, or week 15. Like, why even come back and play that when the Rams are totally dusted? We don't even know if Matthew Stafford's going to be cleared for this week. The run game has devolved into absolutely impossible to even play anyone. I guess the only thing to talk about, Evan, is how you think the pass game will look without Cooper Kupp now, because, man, he obviously had such an outrageous role. They have Allen Robinson. They have Tyler Higbee. They have Van Jefferson. It's not great. What do you think about the fallout from the Cooper Kupp injury?
Is Ben Skoranek going to take over the Cooper Kupp role? I don't know. I mean, they also in this game, so they lost Joe Noteboom, their left tackle, earlier in the season. Obviously lost Andrew Whitworth after last season to retirement. And they were playing Alaric Jackson at left tackle for Joe Noteboom. And Alaric Jackson was actually doing okay. He's out for the season now.
Yeah. And by the way, even before that injury, Thorne posted his mid-season offensive line rankings. You can find them on the site. The Rams were dead last. And that was before this latest injury. So, yeah. Yeah.
And they lost a guard for the season, too. So they're like losing like the backups to the guys who were playing in place of the starters at this point. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel for this team. I don't know. I think that they're going to keep Allen Robinson and Van Jefferson probably as the perimeter receivers. And I think they're probably going to put Skoranek in the slot, and Higbee's going to get a bunch of targets in the middle of the field, and they're not going to score many points, but we'll be able to manufacture some PPR production out of them.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's ugly for sure. Next 4 games for the Rams: at Saints, at Chiefs, versus Seahawks, versus Raiders. I'd love to see Allen Robinson get a chance in the slot, and Allen Robinson have a chance as a featured guy. I just don't know that it's going to happen, but that's going to be one of those tough projections that we have this week upcoming Rams wide receivers.
I would like to see that too. I don't know who would play outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Minnesota had one of the most absurd wins I've ever seen. I mean, Justin Jefferson makes the catch of the decade. If he doesn't catch that on 4th down, the game's over. Then Josh Allen just needs to execute a snap and like a kneel basically, or a fall down, and the game is over. He can't do that. He fumbles. I mean, what an absolutely absurd game. I don't really have a lot of takeaways from Minnesota. I feel like we have a really good read on how they're using their players right now. I would just be careful about box score watching, because again, they got 50 pass attempts off in this game and 79 plays in this overtime game. So, box score stuff is going to be inflated, but yeah, guys are being used as expected in Minnesota. It's a pretty predictable system right now. Any thoughts on Minnesota's win in Buffalo?
Nothing really big. I would just add that Dalvin Cook, I mean, he hit an 81-yard touchdown. Any concerns about him really losing a step? I mean, he had like one of the fastest times all year in terms of his next-gen speed. I don't think he's lost a step. I think he's pretty darn good. It's just his passing game usage has not been great. But it's gotten a lot better actually over their last 2 games. So that's a promising step forward. He's taking a lot more passing down snaps now than he and Madison's role in that area has been scaled back.
Yep. Shoulder seems to be getting healthier for Dalvin Cook at the least. Saints, I know there's a lot of people tilting Alvin Kamara out there right now. The usage has been good. The usage has been great. I mean, he was out there for 90+% of the snaps. Once again, was Alvin Kamara. A big issue was Saints didn't show up. I mean, they were on a short week going on the road to face a Steelers team, getting TJ Watt back off a bye, and the Saints just laid an egg. They only got 45 plays off in the entire game. Kamara was just like dead from the start. Everybody on The Saints were dead from the start. So I don't think we can make any grand judgments here, but I think we might get a quarterback change off this. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't think it's great for Kamara when they go to Jameis, but what do you think of the Saints laying an egg in Pittsburgh?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, so now Alvin Kamara has touch totals of 12 and 11 in his last 2 games. And yeah, I mean, you can point a straight line from that to how many plays they're getting off, because they ran 49 plays in the Monday Nighter and they ran 45 plays here, and just nobody's going to do anything, when you run that few of plays. Maybe Jameis Winston, and I agree, like from a check down standpoint and all that, it's probably a downgrade for Alvin Kamara's receiving projection. However, like, we need to be able to like score some points here and generate offense. And Jameis Winston will definitely hang in. Their offensive line is struggling. They're missing Eric McCoy and Andrews Pete, 2 stud interior offensive linemen, and their offense. And they've been playing James Hurst, who got concussed in this last game at left tackle. I mean, Jameis will hang in. He'll hang in the pocket. So I guess we could say that about him. And I like his, although Olave has been doing pretty well with Andy Dalton, but I still like the stylistic match for Chris Olave with Jameis Winston.
Let's go to the Giants. You led matchups with Saquon Barkley. I talked about the Saquon stuff on the solo pod and playing him in cash. You can listen to that for more. But this Saquon usage obviously is just incredible. He's now on pace for 374 carries, 1,758 rushing yards. Been effective as a runner despite them having no weapons in the pass game. Now, they did get Kenny Golladay back for this game finally, but he had 0 catches on 2 targets, and they credited him with 2 drops. So, is what it is on Kenny Golladay.
And they didn't play him in the second half.
So Slayton made a big play for them. But yeah, I mean, again, very predictable usage from the Giants on a week-to-week basis here. Any thoughts on their win over the Texans?
Well, I know that you'll be excited because Danny Dimes is getting the Lions this week.
Yep.
We'll be talking about him on Friday for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon, 35 carries. That's a career high for him. I know you were talking about Geno Smith, comeback player of the year. Is Saquon the favorite, though?
I think Geno deserves it over Saquon, considering Saquon was played last year. Like, it's not even his first year back from the injury. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I'm biased, obviously, because I have the Geno ticket. So
right.
So we'll see.
Well, hey, I got the Geno MVP ticket.
Okay.
I'm hoping that Geno gets MVP and then Saquon gets comeback player of the year. But.
Yeah, by the way, Danny Dimes up to like 13th in QB 13 in fantasy points per game. So shout out to Danny Dimes doing it every week, getting you the 14 to 18 points you need every week.
Yeah. Oh, also Dan Dugan, who covers the Giants for The Athletic, posted an interesting note today. You remember Brian Daboll used to get like shit on because he threw the ball too much in Buffalo? Like, how ridiculous, by the way. Right. It would just be like, oh, anytime ever after they like lost a game, the talking heads would be like, oh, it's because they're not running the ball enough, and then they'd win like 5 in a row after that, and like no one would say anything. But now they're like the second run heaviest team in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to Brian Daboll identifying, and I know it sounds so simple to us, but just not enough teams and coaches do it, identifying, like being able to self-scout and maximize the strengths and minimize the weaknesses of what you got. And I mean, at this point, is anybody better at that right now? Is anybody doing that better right now than Brian Daboll? No.
Yeah. Adjust your scheme to the players you have. That's all. It's not rocket science. Let's go to Eagles. Eagles took their first loss last night, Evan, and this was kind of, I don't want to say fluky, but they made some mistakes. I mean, the Dallas Goedert, obviously he got the face mask. I get it, but he still fumbled. Quez Watkins makes a huge play downfield, bounces back up. He fumbles. It was a mess for sure. Really, really sloppy game from the Eagles. They only got 47 plays off. Speaking of teams who only got a few plays off here, what do you think of the Eagles suffering their first loss? Big upset home against the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, and I know the Commanders are just kind of like a tough out right now, and the Eagles just played like crap. So I'm not really coming away from this with any huge takeaways or anything. I'm not worried about AJ Brown or anything like that. Not even worried about Miles Sanders. It was a bad game. They I guess they took it for granted. I don't know.
Dallas Goedert hurt his shoulder on that play, and he's going to be out for a while. It doesn't sound like it's season ending, but he's going to be out for a while. Any thoughts on the fallout from the Goddard injury?
Yeah. Grant Calcaterra, I think he's a 4th or 5th round pick. He's showed some explosive receiving ability in college. I think that he's going to take over as the main receiving tight end. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be anything in fantasy, but it's something to note.
Yeah. And I mean, Dallas Goedert was earning significant targets. I mean, there's going to be more targets to go around. Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll are not going to earn the same amount of targets that Dallas Goedert was earning. And so I think it's a little bit of an upgrade for guys like Quez Watkins and AJ Brown and Devonta, at least a little bit. And maybe you'll see some more Kenny Gainwell in the past game as well. But yeah, it's a big injury for them. I mean, Dallas Goedert is a very, very, very good player for sure. Let's go to San Francisco. I was stunned, man. I mean, they give up everything to get Christian McCaffrey. And then Elijah Mitchell played a ton. I mean, CMC 46 snaps, Elijah Mitchell 25. And this was Elijah Mitchell's first game since week 1, by the way. CMC 22 routes, Elijah Mitchell 6. CMC 20 opportunities, carries plus targets, Elijah Mitchell 20 as well. So it's not like a huge concern. Christian McCaffrey's going to be so efficient on his touches. I don't love them, though, mixing in Elijah Mitchell so much. And this was a game they got off a ton of plays and a ton of running back touches. So when they get off less, maybe they'll concentrate more to CMC. But still, it wasn't great. What are your thoughts on Elijah Mitchell's role in this game? Anything else on the 49ers?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a hot hand situation. Like Christian McCaffrey, they started out with Christian McCaffrey in the lead role.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of, wasn't having his best day. They put in Elijah Mitchell and he's on fire. So I think it had a little bit to do with that. I mean, that's something that we may have to contend with at times because Kyle Shanahan is a hot hand believer that he can identify oh, this guy's we're not feeling it today with this guy. Like, let's give this other guy a chance. Oh, baby, we're feeling it now. He thinks he can do that. And I mean, he's had a good amount of offensive success in the league. And then it also had a little bit to do with game script. I mean, Elijah Mitchell's stuff really happened when they had the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not worried about it.
No, definitely not. And
but definitely Elijah Mitchell is he should be owned everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And, Christian McCaffrey still got 6 targets, and the targets that he gets, a lot of them are downfield. It's just so valuable. Obviously, he had a rushing touchdown as well, and obviously nothing to worry about on Christian McCaffrey. It's just not ideal that they're not loading him up, at least for DFS, or if you have him in season long. It's not ideal that it doesn't look like they're going to give him 30, 35 touches.
Yeah. And shout out to Jimmy G. Although he didn't really do a whole lot. He had a rushing touchdown in this game, but he is 4th in the NFL right now in average in adjusted yards per pass attempt, right up with Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts and the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he's been playing pretty darn well this season.
Yep. Last thing on San Francisco is just the Debo stuff. I know people are wondering what's wrong with Debo. Hopefully, if you were listening, you did not take Debo in the 2nd or early 3rd round. But it's just, I think all that's going on is a normalization of his rates. I mean, 4.8% touchdown rate this year is fine. Last year it was 10.2%. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. And he had the shortest ADOT in the league and the longest in yards per catch. So, I mean, it just didn't make any sense what Debo did last year. He's just coming back to earth. Seattle. This Kenneth Walker role, I mean, it went from good to absolutely outrageous. In this game over in Germany, Kenneth Walker plays 45 of 52 snaps, handles 100% of the running back carries, 29 routes on 40 dropbacks, 8 targets for Kenneth Walker in this game for a 24% share. I mean, if that's the way they're going to use this guy, I mean, he's just an absolutely outrageous smash. We just updated our dynasty rankings. I think you can make a case for Kenneth Walker now as the number 1 dynasty running back, which is crazy to think. But yeah, it's possible, man, with this role and his ability and his age. So what do you think about that? Anything else on the Seahawks?
Yeah, he did not have a good game on the ground here. Tampa Bay got back Akeem Hicks, and he's just been such a difference maker for their run defense that they kind of eliminated Seattle's rushing offense. But you're right. I mean, this is like a floor game for Kenneth Walker. And, especially considering he was so lightly used in the passing game at Michigan State, very, very promising to see. It also gives the potential for him to have one of these games where 20 carries for 110, a touchdown or two, and then 6 catches for 55. And that's insane production, So now that is in his range of potential outcomes to where he could have a really big rushing game and a really big receiving game. I understand that there was game script involved here, but now that is in his range of potential outcomes. And that's elite sort of production. I
mean, yeah, game script was obviously a factor, but normally in these game scripts, they put in DJ Dallas or Travis Homer, and they didn't. They stuck with Walker. And it's just a reminder, we talk about it a lot over the summer when we're talking about prospects. College teams, sometimes they just don't ask their running back to be in the pass game. They just don't. It doesn't mean they can't do it. And that's kind of what happened to Kenneth Walker. Michigan State never asked him to be involved in the pass game. And so is what it is. Let's go to Tampa. Rachaad White started this game. Now, I thought that was interesting because it wasn't like they benched Lenny. In the first half, the opportunities were Rachaad White 9, Leonard Fournette 13. Then Leonard Fournette hurts his hip. Rachaad White ends up out-snapping Keyshawn Vaughn 48-5, which was a good sign. Early reports are that Leonard Fournette is expected back after the bye. But man, I know we talk about it seemingly every week. It certainly seems like they're leaning into a changing of the guard here to Rachaad White. Any thoughts on that? Anything else on the Bucs as they head into their bye?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they are leaning into Rachaad White a little bit. Obviously, they started him. He got going a little bit early. Then Fournette came in. He was running well. And then he got hurt, and they went back to Rachaad White. Rachaad White finishes with 105 rushing yards.
Yeah, and no targets, which was weird, but yeah.
Yeah, which is weird. I think it's really nice that they showed that they're willing to give him 22 carries because that's not the kind of player that he was billed to be. So having that in his range of potential outcomes is nice. Julio showed some juice on an early touchdown, a longer touchdown. Cameron Brate comes back, and Cade Otton. I don't know. Did you look at the participation?
Yeah, I actually tweeted about it. I don't like to complain about bad beats, but I was on such tilt because we found the Cade Otton line. Cam Brate was announced active, and we found a Cade Otton under 29.5 receiving yards line. And then I thought that was an absolute smash with Cam Brate active. Turns out Cade Otton only runs 10 routes the entire game, caught 3 balls for 34 yards. So that was a really painful loss there. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. Cade Otton's been so much better than Cam Brate. I thought it would be closer.
Sounds like really good process, bad result. So
yeah, I'm surprised somewhat that they didn't make it more even between Brate and Otton. And, maybe going forward, they'll play more Otton, but we'll see. All right, last one we're going to do here today is the Washington football team. Last night, I thought Terry McLaurin played an incredible game last night in a very, very, very difficult matchup. He had Darius Slay on him a ton. Terry McLaurin goes 8, 128, 0 on 11 targets. Terry McLaurin's target share now with Taylor Heineke is 29.7%. I get that Carson Wentz is coming off the injury, off IR this week upcoming. They have to stick with Heineke. They have, not that Heineke's good, but he's for sure been better. I feel like guys are playing harder for him. He's finding McLaurin more. I feel like they got to stick with McLaurin. What do you think about that? I'm stick with Heineke. Anything on that? Anything else on the Washington football team?
I think that they are absolutely going to stick with Taylor Heineke. They've won 4 of their last 5, and their only loss was, I believe, by 3 points to Minnesota, who some people are putting number 1 in their power rankings foolishly. But nevertheless, the Vikings are pretty good, okay? So I think that there's no question that they're going to stick with Taylor Heineke. 100%. McLaurin is an absolute baller. We talked about now that the backfield has been narrowed to a 2-man ordeal. Antonio Gibson is a pretty good flex play on a week in and week out basis. Brian Robinson is just kind of a big, stiff, grinder. But what they really did in this game is they just dominated time of possession. Yeah. They had the ball for almost 41 minutes. Okay. And they did that by just 2, 3, 4 yard little, knives from Brian Robinson and a good amount of Antonio Gibson too. But that's the kind of player that Brian Robinson is. He's like a big grinder.
Yeah. Washington football team converted 12 third downs in this game, ended up getting 81 plays off. They just had so many long drives. I think the Antonio Gibson stuff is contingent for me on J.D. McKissick's health. So keep an eye on that because if Antonio Gibson loses the pass game, J.D. McKissick, who's dealing with a neck injury, That would not be great. Last thought I had here was Jahan Dotson finally got back to health. Didn't have a big role in the game. He's down to 0.92 yards per route run this season. I'm not like panicking on Jahan Dotson, but it's not a great sign. He's clearly well behind Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel here. That's going to do it for this NFC team by team pod. Appreciate you all being here. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, it is indeed free. Would mean a lot to us as we try to reach our goal of 30,000 YouTube subscribers before the end of NFL season. For Evan, for Bruce, Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.